Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chalk Talk. I am your host, Armando Marsal. As always, with me is Bobby Gomes. How's it going, my brother?
Going well. Ready to break down the showdown and Sunday slate.
Yeah, man, it's Thursday night. We have a pretty I don't want to say boring game on Thursday, but it's meaningless game, I guess, for the NFL. Definitely not for fantasy. CJ Beathard is going to miss, or he's active, but he's going to work as a backup here to Mullins. That will definitely change a lot in this game here today. Give me your thoughts. What does that move do for you? In my season long rankings, I moved George Kittle from number 2 overall this week to number 7. I mean, that's the impact I think that Mullins brings to this offense. Do you agree there?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to drop everyone down a peg. I was pretty high on San Fran D tonight. I think that's going to change. I think a lot of people are going to look to the Raiders defense. Makes a lot of sense. I had to switch out Beathard in my Sunday, Thursday cash game. So doing that now, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely you we kind of had to prepare for this because he was unable to even grab a ball or the other day he was having very trouble grabbing a ball. So it just doesn't seem like a situation. Never seemed like a situation where he was going to give it a go here. If there was something to play for, maybe he'd go out there, but I don't think it's necessary to bring him out. Derek Carr had a pretty good game last week. One of his best of the seasons, if not the best. Or actually one of the best. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 244 passing yards, completed 75% of his passes. I like him. I think he's a talented quarterback. I think he's streaky. I think he's very touchdown dependent. But I do think he's talented without a doubt. I think this is a good matchup for him this evening. But my biggest concern is, are they going to need him to win this game? And my answer to that question is no. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think Reuben Foster's out for the 49ers, so it might be easier for them to pound the rock with Doug Martin. But no, yeah. I don't know. Honestly, the game's in San Francisco, so anything can happen. What's the line now? Do you have it?
The line for this game, give me 1 second here. Last I saw, I think the Raiders were So last I saw, the Raiders were getting 4 points. Now they're getting 1. Actually, no, I'm sorry, getting 4 points. No, getting 4 points. Now they're giving 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a big reverse here. It looks like now the Raiders are actually favored by a point, and they were actually 3.5 point dogs before. So a 3-point line shift here in the Raiders' favor here.
So Vegas still likes the game to be close.
Vegas still thinks this game is going to be close, yeah. And 71% of the bets are currently on the Raiders. You got 57% on the over here. The over under is 44 points. It actually went down to 3 points. It was at 47. I think there's still going to be some scoring here. I just think it's going to it's not that the Oakland has a stout D by any means or anything like that. In fact, their defense is terrible. But can you really trust Mullins here? I think that's the big question. Nick Mullins is just we don't know what we're gonna get, and at least what I saw in the preseason, it wasn't all that pretty, man. I know it was a limited sample size, but it wasn't pretty at all.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at Kyle Shanahan really knows. I think he's going to coach circles around Gruden. So if there is in tournaments, I think you definitely take a shot on Mullins. Just because more of Kyle Shanahan than actually in the Raiders' defenses, like you said, awful. I don't think they get any quarterback pressure at all. I think they're last in the league in quarterback pressures. Or or in the bottom half, definitely. So it's for a first time quarterback. Like it's not the worst situation. Like it's a really good situation for a first time quarterback. He has Kyle Shanahan behind him, so I wouldn't be off him in DVPs entirely. Definitely not.
Yeah, I totally get that take, and I kind of agree. You know, sometimes even a bad quarterback steps into a good system and is able to excel, and I think that's a great point. You know, we've seen quarterbacks be very productive in this system, the Shanahan system here. I mean, Beathard was a couple of weeks. He was pretty hot, you know, and was playing pretty well for a couple of weeks, a couple of games or so. It just goes to show you that a capable quarterback can come out and be efficient in this type of offense. So how are you going to attack this game? I mean, are you gonna fade the Raiders defense because they're gonna become chalky now and maybe leverage it with like you mentioned, maybe someone like Mullins here? I think taking a flyer on Kittle is fine. I definitely think his production comes down, but I think if you're going to, you know, take a stab on this offense, I think it's kind of you have to go with the upside guys. Maybe a Marquise Goodwin, who can definitely break a big reception for a touchdown, and just, you know, he can basically mess up a slate completely with just four targets. I mean, he can. We've seen it do it before when he got back from injury. I think he only had 4 or 5 targets against the Packers, and he turned it into 2 touchdowns, like $180 or something, or $150.
I think I took down.
I think we were both
performance.
I know. I think we talked about it. I think we both agreed that was a high variance, but obviously high upside spot for him. And I think it's the same this week. I really do.
No, I'm with you. I honestly like. So everyone's probably going to shift off the 49ers and the showdown slate. A guy like Goodwin, it's really good that you bring him up because he can – I would kind of – in showdown, I would definitely bump the 49ers up a peg just because they're going to be – especially in the captain spot, a guy like Goodwin or like the 49ers D, people are not going to go that way, and the line's still a 1-point spread. Like, I don't have an issue with that because – Vegas thinks it's going to be close still, so but the line's probably moving as we speak. But still, regardless, like I think you can definitely incorporate some 49. I would be more inclined to put a 49er in my captain spot than an Oakland Raider, I think.
Really? You see, to me, I think a lot of people are going to try to put Derek Carr in the captain spot, and I think the best play in the captain spot is going to be Jared Cook. This is a good matchup for him. I think when you look at the receiving position here, and it's sad to say, in my opinion, the most trustworthy receiver for Oakland is Seth Roberts. I mean, that's the guy I might feel most comfortable playing. Not Jordy Nelson, not Martavis Bryant. I mean, Seth Roberts. It just, and I know you called him out in the last show, and you talked about him, which, you know, good call and kudos to you, man. But it's a situation where he's good, in my opinion, going to be the more productive receiver here. At least that's what I'm seeing now in this game and maybe the next game, you know, and what we saw last week. It just seems like there's a better connection with Carr and Roberts than with any other of his receivers.
Yeah, I think everyone was using Bryant last week, and I just went to Roberts just because they have a familiarity. I thought Bryant's snaps were kind of in question, even though that they were everyone was kind of like, oh, he's just going to step in, but I didn't feel like that would be the situation. Roberts kind of he's been there with Derek Carr since day one, so it just seemed like a good play, and he was like $700 cheaper. I like the Roberts call. The thing with Roberts is not very doesn't really have a high ceiling. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of showdown, like I guess you can use them if you're like looking for a plug-in play. If you're, I'm just a little. I'd probably use them in my lineup, but I don't know if I'd use them in captain because I think, well, actually, you could probably use them. I don't know. I don't play the showdown enough to be like who to like exactly pinpoint. Like I would go to Goodwin probably in my just because of the variance aspect of it. and I feel like people are going to come off it.
I mean, I don't play high volume. I don't play high volume, showdown at all. I toss max I'll ever toss is a handful of lineups, and that's like not even like tonight. I have 2 lineups in, and I think Goodwin would have been a better captain spot guy with Beathard, because I still don't think anyone was going to utilize him there. But I do think his ceiling might be a little bit capped here with Mullins. Just a tad. I still think he's a good play because he could still pop off, But I think you're taking on much more variance with him in the captain slot now than you would be with someone like Beathard. I think Cook is probably the safest bet to, have a better game today, and maybe putting him in the kind of spot makes sense. You can also fit him in without an issue, because a lot of people are going to be like, one guy I'm going to take a stand on is Jalen Richard. I'm not going to play him tonight. I think a lot of people are going to play him, and he's been pretty consistent. I just don't think there's a ton of a ceiling there for him. And then I also don't think this game environment favors. I think, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, Doug Martin is someone that should receive the rock tonight. We saw him get the carries last week. He just hasn't been efficient. It's only a matter of time where he has one of those games because the opportunity is there. And I do think this could be it. And if they're playing with a lead, they're just going to keep giving him the ball. They're not going to need to pass to Jalen Richard here at all. So I'm going to go ahead and take that stance. It's a scary one because he does provide, in my opinion, a nice floor, 10, 12 fantasy point floor. And some of the guys that I'm playing, like Doug Martin, does not provide that kind of floor. But I do think when you look at the situation, it just favors Martin a little bit more.
No, I get you. If you're only playing a couple lineups, though, wouldn't you? For me, I don't play enough showdown. Like I said, I would probably be looking at more 49ers just because, just to go total opposite, whatever else is doing showdown, and maybe definitely have Derek Carr in my lineup. Maybe the highest usage 49er that I can think of, Jared Cook, possibly, or a kick.
Well, I'm running one lineup with the Raiders defense, and the other one's not. It's actually loading up on some Sanford guys as well. Yeah, but I do still think that Martin's a good play because I do, at the end of the day, think that they're going to be playing with a heavy lead here. I might be wrong there, though.
For me, I'm just Doug Martin. I haven't been able to get him right since he's came into the league. So, but I get why definitely he's going to be chalky tonight, no, without a doubt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How would you approach it? For instance,
I might roll 3 in the captain spot, or like I said, Goodwin, or I don't know, maybe Mullins, and just try to totally. Mullins is that's a horrible, but he's got the ball in his hand the whole game. If he plays well, I don't know. Sanford and D would make the most sense. I thought I was going to roll them in the captain spot if I played showdown tonight prior to Beathard going out. It was either them or Goodwin. So, I don't know. It'd just be something different. I'd still have Carr in, obviously. I was going to roster Richard because my thought process would be that they'd be playing from behind and he'd be catching a lot of passes, I guess. He fits the format.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just, I'm just having trouble, with whether I roster. I know from a game theory perspective, Mullins makes a ton of sense. He's not going to have any ownership. Everyone's going to be playing Oakland Raiders. But, man, it's just sometimes there's a reason why no one's rostering someone. That's the problem.
For me, it's just Gruden, I don't think is a great coach. Kyle Shanahan's a really good coach. I know that Mullins, like you said, he didn't look good in preseason, and but this game's only a 1-point spread. He's still a high usage player. He's get the ball, he's the quarterback, so he's touching the ball on every play. Hopefully he's throwing it. I don't know, but Kyle Shanahan likes to throw the ball, and Breida's banged up. You know what I mean? I don't know how much they're going to rely on the run game. I guess you could say Alfred Morris. He could be someone who could throw in there, but they're not going to be playing from But everyone thinks they're going to be playing from behind. So is Alfred Morris going to see the field? Breida probably banged up. Maybe Mostert. He really kind of didn't do it last week as someone who was a lot of the industry was really high on him. I'm just thinking it from the other way. Like, I don't want to just go with Oakland, but I know you don't need, like, you're building a San Fran lineup too. So,
yeah, I'm only doing two, and I'm gonna hedge one lineup with another just because I'm only playing two. So, I don't know. It's one of those states that can go really either way. Sometimes there's a little bit more
hedge life,
huh? Yeah, it's a good friend of mine always told me
live that
kind of life, man.
I'm with you. Hedge too. Hedge.
Like I have pretty much all the San Francisco stacks in one, and then just pretty much everyone on Oakland, for the exception of one offensive player for the Niners. Like, that's kind of how I'm rostering, man. It's so. I really wish Bether was playing. It would make this game so much. I mean, this showdown slate, so much more challenging, I think.
Yeah, I wish Bether was playing too for my Sunday, Thursday cash games. That was kind of
that's
not good,
sucks, man.
I just talk myself into throwing Mullins in because I know, like, I can't do it. Like, what can I do? I used Gronk and he busted. I shouldn't have used Gronk. I should have just used Kittle and Cook, which was like what I was going to do.
Yeah, that happens, man. It's sometimes a 1 versus 1. It just does not help your lineup, man. That 1 versus 1 where you're between two guys.
For
the other
49ers tonight. So.
All right, well, you know what? Let's go Mullins. Let's go 49ers, man. I'm gonna go ahead and toss them in there, and just enjoy one lineup is going to be all the way at the bottom. The other one might be somewhere at the top. So looking forward to that for sure. Any final thoughts on this Thursday night game? Look, these teams are playing essentially the winner of this game. Does not do themselves a favor because now the other team it's lined up to get the first overall pick. So technically, as an organization, you want to lose this game. That's the kind of game we're going to be watching this evening. So I'm not that excited about it, man. I'm definitely going to be watching because it is football. But, geez, it's going to be pretty brutal one to, I think, watch. Any final thoughts on this game before we move on to that main
Thursday night game?
It is, man. It is. I said last week with the Dolphins it was going to be bad. And it was pretty bad. I mean, we had some fantasy goodness, but to watch it as a fan, it was not pleasant at all. All right, man. Look, this weekend we got 10 games on the board. A couple of interesting ones here, I think. And the first one, in my opinion, is not that interesting, but it still have some fantasy goodness for sure, without a doubt. And that is the Bears versus the Bills. I mean, this game has a 37.5 over/under. The spread is 10 points here. Bears favored. They have an implied team total of 23.75 points. The Bills have a 13.75 implied team total. I mean, I don't want to laugh here, man, but I don't think I've seen something so bad in quite some time.
They had 12 versus Minnesota in Minnesota.
That's right. You're right. And I think I might have said that same line that I don't think I've seen anything that bad. Yeah. You know what? I have said that. You're right. I mean, tough not to laugh here, bro. But what are your thoughts on this game? I mean, look, for me, just if you can afford them, lock this Bears defense in. I mean, if you want to start your rosters that way this week, they should be in a good spot here. I think they should just demolish this offense, but I have barely anything from this game, man. I just don't like this one at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jordan Howard's pretty cheap for the Bears if you correlate without the defense, but there's so much running back value, and he doesn't really fit DK's scoring system the way you'd probably like. So I don't really love him.
Yeah. I think it's great that you pointed them out because the price tag is just so appealing. But this is my concern with him. He did receive 22, rush attempts last week, 22 carries there, but it's so unpredictable with what we're going to get out of him. And then he doesn't have a huge role in the passing game. So it's not like we have that also safety net where we can have some production in the passing game. In fact, he's had no more than one reception in each of his no more than one target, in each of his last 4 games, and only one reception in those 4 games. He was far more involved in the passing game at the beginning of the season, but I think the team got it right and gave Tariq Cohen a little bit more in the passing game. This offense is clicking so much better now. I think Trubisky's in a good spot, but there are just other guys in better game environments that I feel a little bit better about this week. This is one of those games that, man, I don't think it's necessary, especially with some of the other over-unders, to go here. If I am going to correlate, the Bears defense, I wouldn't, hate doing it with, like you mentioned, Howard. But his touches are just so unpredictable, which it makes it scary. I don't like to blindly, roster a guy because there's a possibility that he can do something. I like to have some type of information. I know this game script will favor him, but we've seen him sit in blowouts and let them run Tariq Cohen, and that concerns me.
Yeah, so Armando mentioned the Bears D, obviously, and I think we haven't touched on really Peterman and why we like the Bears D so much. So Peterman's not the greatest quarterback. His interception to completion percentage is very neck and neck. So that's a good reason to like the Bears. It's probably like the Bears defense. But you pretty much – any love for the Bills defense? I was wanting to get your thoughts on that because – I don't know. Trubisky's questionable with the throwing. They played pretty good versus the Pats. They always play the Pats well. But
I found it in the microwave.
Yeah.
That's
honestly, dude, because I kind of grown some respect for this Chicago Bears offense. I think they have some nice weapons. Trubisky's kind of growing on me. I think he's playing better football. But yeah, it's not a situation where I will go ahead and take them.
They'll be there at 9:30.
Does he know?
Does anyone know here?
I don't know. I would text him.
It threw me off. It threw me off there. No, but the Bills is not a defense I'm going to be rostering this week, man. I get that they haven't. They've been pretty stingy, I guess you can say, but not really, something. Not really a defense I'm targeting here. Anything else here for you before we move on to this next game?
No. Let's get a move on. I think we already spent too much time on.
Yeah, seriously, man. Sorry, guys. Emil threw us off there a little bit. It was pretty funny there. On to the next game here. We got Tampa heading to Carolina to take on the Panthers. This game actually is one that's very interesting. It has a 55 over-under here. The Panthers are 6-point favorites. They have a 30.5 implied team total. The Bucs have a 24.5 implied team total. Ryan Fitzpatrick will start for the Bucs this week. They are bench. Yes, I know. They are benching Jameis Winston, Fitzpatrick at 5,500. Talk to me here about this game. Talk to me about your interest.
Yeah, I like Fitz. I think I have him as my third-ranked quarterback point per dollar. He's the guy. I don't know. I'm contemplating using him in cash. And I like Fitz with Godwin. You taught me on a Godwin last week. It didn't really culminate, but as I had tuned into the game, and then when Fitz came in, he was just forcing the ball to Godwin. Problem with Godwin for cash games is he's a rotational player, so you have to worry if he's going to get the snaps or not. Just to mention, the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay is really letting the quarterback kind of let it loose. It's why Jameis was such a value in terms of fantasy and a terrible at real life NFL quarterback. So, yeah, it's another reason to like Fitz at 5,500. I like Godwin, like I said. Do you have any other thoughts in terms of Tampa Bay? I know you like them.
I wouldn't mind going back to Godwin for the reason you said, only in tournaments for sure. OJ Howard to me is very interesting. I know that there's a quarterback change and he's been more efficient in recent games, but when you look at the first 3 games, he was still getting a little bit over 4 targets per game. We saw him score 18.6 fantasy points and 13.2 fantasy points with Fitzpatrick under center, as well as 7.4 fantasy points here. So I do think that there is, some upside here for Howard at this price point. And I do think this is a good game environment. I'm probably not going to be rostering Fitzpatrick because I like the quarterback opposite of him and Cam Newton way too much this week, man. I just think this is a smash spot for him. And you can pair him up with pretty much McCaffrey. You could pair him up with, I think, Greg Olsen, who's in a good spot. Obviously, the volume is not there, but you can still do it. Devin Funchess, I think, is in a good spot. And DJ Moore. To me, DJ Moore is one of my favorite plays this week at 4,300. We've just seen an increase in his role, an increase in his targets over the last 3 games. I know it has to do with Torrey Smith being out. But it's just a spot that I like quite a bit here. I liked him coming into the season as a rookie that, was as ready for the NFL as can be. And this is just one of those matchups. I believe he's going to see Brent Grimes, which would give him one of the higher advantage ratings of the slate. In fact, yes, it's a 26% advantage rating here, and he is going to get Brent Grimes, who rates out well below average over at Pro Football Focus, man. So really like him this week. Give me your thoughts here on this offense.
No, yeah, like you said, Carolina is going to be one of the offenses a lot of people look to going up against Tampa. We see what Cincinnati did last weekend. I like you touched on Howard. I think he's going to be a very good cash game play. A lot of people are going to go there. He's probably not bad to roster him just because of the situation. Like you said, Christian McCaffrey, has the highest. I like him as the best running back on the slate on that side. But it's like the Panthers are so like they went off versus the Ravens, and like in every other spot they've been chalky, they busted. So in tournaments, like I don't know, you're gonna have to fade one of these running backs. I feel like in tournaments, there's a lot of running backs on the slate in very good spots. So I'm considering it, but like Mixon, I didn't like last week, and it bit me in the butt versus this Tampa Bay team. So yeah, basically. I don't know. It's going to be a decision for Sunday. Who else did you hit on? So DJ Moore is going to be in cash, one of the higher owned players as well. So
yeah, I like him a lot. The only one concern I have is that it hasn't been consistent all season, and it's not high volume. But I do think that changes moving forward. I think that there's going to be more consistency. I don't expect him to be a 10 target guy at all. But I could see 5 to 6 targets here on a week-to-week basis. And this is just
slot too. So
correct. Yeah, there's a smash spot here for him, in my opinion. I think he's fairly priced. I don't think he's too expensive, and I don't think he's free either. So I agree with you. I think he's a very good cash game play. I probably, if depending on my roster construction, I haven't obviously built lineups yet for the week. But depending on my roster construction, I might be fitting him into tournaments as well, because there are some high-priced players that I do think are in good spots this week. I think this is a fine game stack. I think you can. I think both teams also provide value here. Any interest for you in someone like Deshaun Jackson now that Fitzpatrick is throwing him the ball? We know that he scored. He was just playing lights out at the beginning of the season with Fitzpatrick under center. He's only 5K here. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I really like Deshaun in tournaments. Fitzpatrick really likes to look to Deshaun Jackson. So, yeah, as a tournament play at 5K, like, yeah, I love it. Give me some Deshaun. I'm with you.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts here? Clearly, I don't think any of us are going to be rostering any of these defenses. I know Carolina has a pretty solid defense, but I think the veteran Fitzpatrick can go in there, and even if he throws a couple picks, I think he can easily put up, 4 or 5 touchdowns on the board against this defense.
Yeah, my thing is like just trying to figure out like this Carolina team, this chalk is scary in tournaments. Just they haven't really came through in these situations. And then they went off versus the best defense in the league, so it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
gotta figure that aspect out.
There's obviously could be some concerns here, but very few people fail against the Bucs, man. So it's just
no, that's I figured that out last week. Learned the hard way.
Well, yeah. Hey, listen, it happened. It happened to me as well. I kind of faded the Mixon chalk. I faded it for Hunt and Connor. They both played well, but obviously, Mixon just had one of those games. All right, on to this next game here. The Chiefs headed to Cleveland to take on the Browns. A 51 over under here. 57% of the bets are on the under. Kind of shocking to me. The Chiefs are 8-point favorites on the road. They have an implied team total of 29.5 points. The Browns have a 21.5 implied team total. This is one of those games that I'm going to roster Kareem Hunt. I think this is a good game script for him. I think his usage has been really, really consistent as of late, especially in the passing game. And he's just been very productive, man. So I like him quite a bit here this week. In my opinion, one of the top running backs of the slate here when you take everything into consideration. Any thoughts on him and anyone else on this Chiefs offense?
Yeah, I think you really have to like Kareem Hunt. Just with the game script going up against Cleveland, it's a really good situation. Mahomes, what's the status on Tyreek? Is he going to be fine or practice?
It looks like he's going to give it a go. These are just, obviously situations where you have to keep a close eye because he's dealing with a groin injury, which never fun. He was limited in today's practice, which was a downgrade from yesterday. But again, I do think he's going to give it a go. I personally don't think it's worth taking the risk, though. I really don't think it's worth taking the risk in someone like Tyreek Hill this week, especially that he might get Denzel Ward, who's been pretty good this season, according to Pro Football Focus. So I don't know, man. Those groin injuries scare me a bit.
No, I'm with you. Leg injuries is tough, especially for that's basically what he relies on.
He's pricey too,
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Kelsey looks good, 6,600. I get him ranked pretty high. I feel like there might be better value. Cleveland's obviously a team that you can stream versus tight ends, so you can use tight ends versus Cleveland. I don't mind him in tournaments. Do you think that Cleveland's going to come out and play a better game here? Just because fire the head coach, Greg Williams, I know, I get it. I know you're laughing and things.
No, because it's funny that you say that because I was actually thinking this kind of the same thing. What kind of Browns team are we going to get? Because they're going to be fired up, and they've kept some games close this season. In fact, I think they've lost a lot of winnable games because of coaching. They have talent on the roster, if you ask me. So I don't know, man. And this is a bad Chiefs defense. We tend to forget that.
Very bad.
So I don't know, man. I'm with you. I don't think this is going to be. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I can see it being a blowout because the Chiefs have just been so dominant on offense, but I just don't see it. I really don't.
What do you think about Nick Chubb?
I don't like Nick Chubb because I still do think that they'll, at some point be playing from behind here. I actually kind of like Duke Johnson quite a bit. I think Duke Johnson is very interesting this week. 38.
Yeah, is Greg Williams going to utilize him? I mean, Hugh Jackson kind of just went off script and wouldn't utilize Duke Johnson. Maybe finally they utilize him with him out of the picture, I guess.
Well, that's what I think. I think they were just not utilizing their weapons efficiently. I mean, look how long it took them to bring in Nick Chubb. They haven't been using Duke Johnson at all this season, basically in the passing game, paying him the big bucks. So Njoku took some time to kind of get going.
It's funny to say Njoku because I kind of really like Njoku.
I think this is a good bounce back game for him. I really do. I personally,
think it's,
and the Chiefs, the Chiefs are quietly allowing the 5th most fantasy points per game to tight ends this year. They've allowed the 2nd highest yards, receiving yards to tight ends, and 3 touchdowns, which is tied for 3rd most, man. So definitely a good spot for Njoku here. And they also struggle against pass catching backs, which is another reason why I'm enticed by Duke Johnson this week. And I also think the game environment is going to favor both of these guys. I want to be early to this. I think they're going to utilize Duke Johnson a bit more. It just only makes sense because he's so good at catching passes out of the backfield, and it's going to alleviate some of that pressure of Baker Mayfield taking hits, unnecessary hits when he could just dump it off to Duke and let Duke make plays, man.
The more you tackle this, I really like Cleveland.
Oh man, here we go, Cleveland stacks. But if you and then you look at the price and it's just like, geez, you can do so much. You really can do so much by getting some of these guys in. I'm not pumping this team, and I'm not saying they're must plays this week. I'm pointing them out because I do think they're interesting. Njoku is dealing with a knee injury, just FYI. I don't think it's going to affect him. It shouldn't affect him this weekend, but just something worth noting because we both do like him. So if you guys are listening, make sure you take a look at that before the weekend. But I do think he's going to be good to go here. Everyone in Kansas City is in play for me. The usual suspects. None of them are core plays for the exception of Kareem Hunt. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes has a phenomenal ceiling. I think you can pay up for Kelsey this week. I really do. I think he's in a really good spot. He's just so consistent here on this offense, a big red zone target for them. And if Hill is at all limited, you're going to see maybe him be a decoy out there and free up Kelsey. So I do think Hill playing, might make a big difference here for him. Any final thoughts here in this game? I mean, I think we pretty much both think this is a pretty good game environment to have, some exposure to here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we can get on to the next that we cover the majority.
All right, here we go. The Jets are going to Miami to take on my Dolphins, and this game should be everything but exciting. 44 over under here, 23.5 implied team total for the Dolphins, 20.5 implied team total for the Jets. The Dolphins are 3-point favorites, but 56% of the bets are with the Jets against the spread here, and 76% of the bets, guys, are on the under. I don't think this is going to be exciting whatsoever. There is only one player that really pops out at me in this game, and that is Kenyon Drake. I just, think he's cheap considering the type of upside he has. And when you look at his involvement in the passing game as of late, it really makes sense, as to why he's been more efficient. That said, it's a tournament play only because the touches are not consistently there. They're just not, he's not on the field as much. Frank Gore still has a role. So I just, secondary tournament play for me, Kenyon Drake. Aside from that, Miami defense, nothing else. How about you?
Yeah, Miami defense. That's pretty much it.
So no interest in Drake whatsoever in tournaments at 5,300.
Too many running backs.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Well, that's why I'm saying secondary. He's not a core player of mine by any means.
I was reading in the chat, so I kind of lost you, but
yeah. So
my fault.
No. But yeah, man. I mean, listen. It's not an appealing game. Vegas thinks this game is going to be just basically terrible. And I tend to agree. I think these are just two below average teams playing each other. You might have a guy or two that pops out here and does well, but aside from that, tough to really be excited here. It's worth noting that we mentioned Chris Herndon last week, and he scored for the third consecutive game. Problem is just he's not seeing a ton of volume. 2 targets last game. He did score in one of those, 7 the game before, but then 2 targets week 6. Still, he's getting the touchdowns, which is what matters here. If you're, if you want to chase those touchdowns, by all means, I personally would not. But it is someone that, still very cheap at the tight end position if you're going digging down the grades here. Any final thoughts before we move on to this next game that might be a little bit more exciting?
No, you got it.
Pittsburgh headed to Baltimore, take on the Ravens. This game has a 47.5 over-under. The Ravens are 3-point favorites with an implied team total of 25.25. The Steelers have a 22.25 implied team total here. Give me your thoughts on this game, Bobby.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. There was some, the defensive coordinator for Baltimore was chirping Le'Veon Bell earlier today. I don't know if you saw that. Antonio Brown, I think he's the best point per dollar wide receiver on the slate. Not point per dollar, value. Just best wide receiver option. I would say, just because Baltimore is going to stuff the run, and I don't know. I really like Antonio in tournaments. I haven't given much thought. I don't think I'm going to use Connor. I like I like Vance at 3,700.
Yeah, this I'm definitely going to stay away from Connor this week. I don't know how popular he's going to be. I don't expect him to be entirely popular this week, but I don't think it's necessary to go there. There's so many better options and better spots, and the Ravens have just been so good against the run this season. Allowing just 562 rushing yards in 8 games, only 3 rushing touchdowns, allowing fewer than 16 fantasy points per game. In fact, the fewest amount of fantasy points per game to the running back position here. So I'm with you. I think, maybe the passing game, I think they're going to have, it's just going to be a better way to move the ball, even though the Ravens is actually really good against the pass as well. So I'm not too interested in the Steelers side of things. I kind of have interest in guys like John Brown this week, and maybe Michael Crabtree, and even in a deep tournament, Joe Flacco. Steelers can get to the quarterback, but Flacco has a lot of weapons, and they have been vulnerable in the secondary here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him be able to do some damage to the secondary with his arm. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I like the call. I wasn't really focused too much on this game. Thanks for bringing them to my attention. John Brown tearing it up all season long. One of the better receivers in the league, I think we've seen through the first 9 weeks, which is a big change from Arizona. He always could do it in Arizona, but he's definitely more involved in this offense. Crabtree is another one. Liked him last week. This is a divisional game. It's a gritty game. I feel like it's more of a Crabtree game. He's at a good price. Problem is with Crabtree is his ceiling's kind of capped. He doesn't have that explosiveness that you kind of want. I like the call on Brown though. This I think that's a real good call.
Yeah, I just think he has that tournament appeal. I don't think he's going to garner any ownership. And we've just seen him doing week in and week out, pretty much either he has a big game or he has a good game or, very bad game. And we saw last time against Pittsburgh, he got 3 of 7 targets for 116 yards and a touchdown, his long of 71 yards. It just goes to show you that he has that big playability. So I don't know. I think he's an interesting tournament play. None of these guys are primary or core play of mine. It's just I don't want to breeze through this game without talking about them. And then when you look at the other side, it's very difficult to have so much interest in this Steelers offense because they do tend to struggle on the road. And these receivers actually struggled, against the Steelers the last time they played, and it was in Pittsburgh. Against the Ravens here, and it was in Pittsburgh. So it's tough, man. I'm never going to talk anyone off of Antonio Brown because he can get it done against anyone, but I just would temper my expectations because one of his worst games this season did come against the Ravens, despite him finding the end zone. So food for thought there. Pretty much a game where if I'm taking secondary options, it's going to be with John Brown, maybe Antonio Brown. And like you mentioned, Vance McDonald is interesting. It's just so frustrating because he's going to get either 8 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, or 2. And it's so unpredictable, and it gets a bit frustrating for me. I don't know if he's going to get it done this weekend, but it is worth noting, Hayden Hurst got in the end zone last week, scored his first touchdown in the NFL here. And when you look at the Steelers versus tight ends, they tend to struggle. So if you're bargain hunting and you're trying to dig in the bottom of the barrel here, he might be someone you want to consider. Any final thoughts here? I think Ravens defense is firmly in play. If you ask me, at 2,500, they laid a skunk last week at Carolina, which was surprising to me, but they're back home here. And they held their own last time out against the Steelers. So wouldn't be surprised if they did this again, especially that they're playing at home.
Yeah, been on the road, second divisional game. I get you. I was just trying. I said AB basically because I was trying to figure out where's this usage going to go. And someone we didn't talk about at 7,200 is Juju. I think that he's someone in tournaments that I'd be maybe instead of AB go to Juju. Yeah,
you could do that. I believe they both had plenty of targets the first time these two teams met this season. So I definitely think this is going to funnel to the pass for the Steelers. I don't think they're going to be running the ball. Maybe Connor catches passes to the backfield, but even then, this Ravens defense has been stout against that as well this year. So Connor, for me, is someone I'll be fading this week without a doubt. If I do get exposure to this game, it's going to be, like you mentioned, with either Antonio Brown or Juju Smith-Schuster here. Any final thoughts here? Would you at all consider the Ravens defense, or not something you'll be doing this week?
In tournaments, just because of Ben's home road splits, I think it's not like the worst play. I like the call. I think it's definitely sneaky.
All right. The next game we're going to talk about here, Detroit headed to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. This game has a 49 over under. The Vikings have a 26.75 implied team total. And the Lions have a 22.25 implied team total. Right now, 60% of the bets are on the under. Vikings are 4.5-point favorites. It's moved down from 5.5 points as it opened. Give me your thoughts on this game here.
Well, I don't know if I want to go back to Matthew Stafford and Kenny Golladay, but I don't know. Well, that would be something, I guess, like actually I have no interest in Detroit. Forget it. Minnesota, if Stephon Diggs doesn't play, I think Thielen's firmly in play in both cash and tournaments, even at 8,900. Well, actually maybe not cash, but his usage is going to go through the roof. So they really struggle versus slot receivers. Quandre Diggs, I think, is the matchup. And Thielen should have a serious advantage. Latavius Murray is also interesting just because they have 5-point spread. He's the only back they have. They're at home. Detroit, they haven't been great versus the run. Actually been bad all season. They just traded for Snacks Harrison from the Giants. Didn't really help them last week versus Carson. He's usually one of the better run defenders in the league. I don't know. If anything, like Thielen's the guy that sticks out. How about you?
This game is kind of tricky. Dalvin Cook is practicing, but he's unsure if he's going to play this week. I think it's best if they rest him until they return from their bye week, which would be in week 10. So I do think maybe Murray would be in a good spot here, considering the potential game script here for the Vikings. But the thing is that line movement kind of concerns me. It's a game where I really like the pass catchers here, especially Thielen. I know he might see some Slay. But right now he's expected to see coverage from Nevin Lawson, who grades well below average on Pro Football Focus. And Thielen actually has the highest advantage rating of any receiver this week. He's playing lights out. He's playing lights out. He's nearly 9K, 100 at least. Well, yeah, over 100 receiving yards in every single game. He has now scored a touchdown in every game since week 4. Eventually, we're going to see regression. I feel like we say that every week. But you know what? He's just been so efficient. And you got Diggs, who's a little bit banged up here, dealing with rib injury. He said he's going to go out there and play. But the problem is A, we don't know if he will, and B, we don't know how efficient he's going to be with this injury. So I expect Thielen to see a ton of targets this week in a matchup that he should easily be able to exploit. I think makes for a very, very strong play in any format, really. I actually have some interest in Kerryon Johnson. He didn't run the ball so well last week, but we saw something we hadn't seen, since week 2, and that's his involvement in the passing game. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 69 yards. I was kind of shocked when I saw this, this week here. But if you had to guess who is the defense ranked dead last in DVOA against opposing running backs, you would never think Vikings because they've been pretty good, but they are. They're dead last, according to Football Outsiders, dead last in DVOA against the running backs. They've been kind of generous when you look at pass catching backs, allowing 451 receiving yards to the position through the air, which is top 6 in the NFL, and 3 receiving touchdowns to running backs, which is tied for top 3 as well. I think them trading away Golden Tate means one thing, and it means that they're going to focus a little bit more on the run. So I do think that that's something they've been wanting to do all season, and I think Patricia's going to kind of force it, and he has a running back in Johnson that he can do it with. And if you don't want to get blown out against Minnesota, you're going to have to keep that offense off the field. So I think Johnson's going to get work this week. And even if this game does turn out to be lopsided, I still think he's going to be on the field because he's shown us his ability to catch pass to the backfield here. So I think he's a sneaky, tournament play this week. I really don't feel comfortable with him in cash, but I do think he's, kind of a sneaky tournament play here.
Yeah, my thing with Johnson is that there's so many running backs on the slate. Like, maybe wait another week because, like you said, we haven't seen it since week 2. I know Theo Riddick's out, and it kind of limits what they can do. And I think he outsnapped Blount pretty heavily last week, like you said. So, yeah, I would just give it another week just because there's so many running backs to choose from.
I also think here. Kirk Cousins is in a good spot. 6,200. I think it's a fair price for him. But I don't think he's going to be my quarterback. It's going to be tough for me to move off of Cam Newton here. Any interest in someone like Kyle Rudolph? He saw 7 targets last week. Really didn't do much with those targets. But assuming Diggs is not 100%, even if he gives it a go, might be limited here. Would that interest you in some Kyle Rudolph?
Yeah, I guess seeing the targets. There's same issue though. Actually, I really haven't considered who I'm going to use at tight end. And Njoku seems like the guy from a game theory perspective that would be because everyone's on OJ Howard. And Njoku burned everyone. He's going to see a lot more snaps than OJ Howard. So, but yeah, no, with the targets, yeah, definitely in play.
Yeah. Any final thoughts here, or are you ready to move on to the next game on the board?
We can boogie on to the next game.
The next game is one I want to have more interest in, but I just cannot for some reason, and that's the Atlanta Falcons headed to Washington to take on the Redskins. This game has a 48.5 over/under. The Falcons are 1.5-point dogs here, actually, on the road at 23.5 implied team total, 25 implied team total for Washington here. Give me your thoughts on this game. Maybe you can, enlighten me here as to some players you might like that I have been overlooking this week in this contest.
Yeah, I think a lot of people around the industry like Julio Jones as a tournament pivot. Is he going to get in the end zone? Like, he has a good matchup. If they were smart, they'd keep Ridley on the other side like the Giants did last week, and the rookie cornerback would be on Jones, but they still probably wouldn't be able to get the ball to Jones. Like, Sarkisian's just that bad. That would be pretty much like my only interest. I don't really love this game.
Yeah, this is kind of a tough game to have a ton of interest in. I mean, if only Julio Jones could get in the end zone. He has fewer than 62 – actually, he has fewer than 96 yards in 2 games, no less than 62 yards in any game this season. He has 1, 2, 3 games over 140 receiving yards and another game over 100 yards. I mean, this guy could just have a monstrous ceiling if he would just get in the end zone because he is so efficient.
I don't think throwing the ball on every play. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, if you look at the red zone numbers, they really just don't look at him in the red zone. I don't know. It's just, their scheme. I really don't understand it either because you have a very talented receiver who can, I'm pretty sure, get open. I don't sit here and watch every single one of their games on a weekly basis and look at what they do in the red zone. But maybe it is something worth doing because we could write them an email or something. Hey, guys, use them better in the red zone, man. You know how much it cost me already?
Estimate at the wide receiver position. They just don't use them.
Excuse me.
What about Tevin Coleman? Any Tevin Coleman love?
No, I don't. I can't, man. It's just too, we don't know what we're going to get here. It's becoming a situation. I'm sorry?
Chris Thompson at all?
He's the one that I have so much interest in. My concern is I just didn't like how they utilized him last week. Maybe the game script wasn't called for it, and this one might. But Falcons have been really, really bad against pass-catching backs. I mean, that's been a thing for us this year. We've talked about it numerous times. When you look at what they've allowed, to running backs through the air, 70 receptions, which is 10 more than the next team in one less game. All right, 619 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. In addition to that, they've allowed 7 rushing touchdowns and 572 rushing yards. So they've just been smashed by running backs all season long. If I knew that Thompson was going to be a little bit more targeted than he was last week, he only got 3 targets last week, I definitely have so much more interest. If we're going to see week 1, 2, or 4, Chris Thompson, where he got 7, 14, 8, then definitely a situation I think is worth going because I don't think he's going to be that popular. And this is a smash spot. I think more people might be interested in someone like Adrian Peterson coming off a monster game, and now he has 20 plus touches in each of the last 2 games. But I think the game environment might suit Chris Thompson better this week. I like that call. Someone that I definitely will have in my player pool, and I'm just gonna do a little bit more digging on him and his injury status and kind of what the team might think of doing with him this week. So I do like that call. I think that's a very sharp call, really. And you mentioned, huh?
No, I'm joking.
Who'd you say?
No, I said sharp guy.
I thought you were gonna say Vernon Davis again, man. Calvin Ridley to me is interesting. I don't want to like him, but I just think he's interesting this week. I think this could be one of those game scripts where he pops off, unexpectedly here. Any interest in him?
No, I like the Calvin Ridley call. I don't know what to do with them. Both these coaches are horrible for fantasy, so I don't know. Figure it out,
Yeah.
man. We got a total of 60 on the board. Like, just get to that one.
I know that's the one you've been waiting for, man. But that's I'm saving the best one for last. So we're almost there. We're almost there. We got a couple more games. We're probably going to be skimming through these rather quickly. The next game that we are going to talk about here is the Houston Texans at Denver taking on the Broncos. This game has a 46 over/under. The Texans have a 22.5 implied team total. The Broncos have a 23.5 implied team total. Demaryius Thomas will be playing his former team right after being traded. Give me your thoughts here on this game. We got Kiki Kute is still dealing with the hamstring injury. He's limited at practice. It's unknown if he's going to give it a go. DeAndre Hopkins is limited with a foot injury, but he's expected to give it a go. Thoughts on this game? I think Cortland Sutton is going to be very popular this weekend, and that's kind of chalk I'm willing to eat, man. Huh?
No, I was saying, and he's gonna bust his chalk. Just finish.
Oh man, and I might be eating some of that chalk, man. I mean,
no, I'm eating some of it too.
It's just when you look at his upside compared to his ceiling and his potential opportunity this week, even though it's not a great matchup, I do think the game environment will favor him too, or the game script here. So I do think that it's a pretty decent spot. I'm not going to be all in on him. I'll probably still be underweight in comparison to the field, but I still think having exposure to him makes some sense this weekend. Any thoughts on either of these offenses here?
So what about going Heuerman instead of Sutton? Because the targets have to be spread across. I think the Texans play pretty good defense versus opposing wide receivers. You can check
I do
that.
too.
That's what I'm saying. Like at 3,900, like I'd rather go Heuerman. If everyone's going to go Sutton and Cash, like I'd rather go down a Heuerman if I can't find anyone that I like at that spot and go up somewhere else. Like especially on the Thursday, Monday slate with the Patriots so you have a 60 and a 58 total. I think it makes a lot of sense to go that route and not play Sutton in cash games and tournaments. On Sunday, you can definitely play Sutton in Hedge Life.
Yeah, it's not a situation I'm excited about by any means. For me, it's more like like I said, the price and the upside, in the potential opportunity. So I'm going to be sprinkling him in some lineups. Look what Devontae Parker did against his defense last week, man. And
one of the balls went off someone and then went 15 yards downfield and ended up in his hands. So like, it was just his night. You can't really say like you can. That's not going to be an argument with me. Like, no way.
I know. I thought you might have missed that, man, but apparently you did not. You did not. Good call.
I saw it. Trust me. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
This guy, it was like nothing could go wrong for him. All the bad luck that he's had throughout his career just like reverted in that one game.
Yeah. I really liked Phillip Lindsay last week. He was one of my core plays. He did pretty well. I like him this week.
I missed.
You missed on him?
No, I should have went there in cash. I used Hunt, Connor, and Gurley. And I knew I should have just used Lindsay, but I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to get off of, Hunt or Connor. I did fine, but I would have been in a lot better position at the wide receiver spot.
Yeah, I went Hunt, Connor, Lindsay, pretty much across the board. I like him again this week. I just don't have him as a core play like I did last week. I still think he's going to see the usage in this backfield. I think the game script is not going to matter too much with him because he can run in between the tackles and also catch passes out of the backfield. So good spot for him. I still think he's fairly priced. I think there's a nice floor here. Don't know, I wouldn't expect a ceiling game or I wouldn't expect too much upside here from him. But again, I think the usage is nice here. Any interest in the revenge narrative? Because we're going to get that question asked at some point here this week of Demaryius Thomas versus Texans. Any interest in that narrative there?
I'm always up for a little revenge. No, I'm not the biggest narrative guy, but I don't know. You gotta like it, right?
Yeah, I'm not a narrative guy.
Tournaments a little bit.
Huh?
In tournaments, a little bit.
I want to see it first, man. I definitely want to see it here
Yeah,
first.
you're gonna miss it. There's gonna be no revenge next week, and he's gonna.
He's only 4,500, which is so enticing.
Seem like the biggest revenge guy, though. I can tell you that much.
Huh?
He doesn't seem like the biggest revenge.
I think he's a team player, man. He's a veteran. I don't think he's gonna really be looking for that.
You don't really care.
Any interest in someone like Devontae Booker? I don't have interest in him, but it looks like he's going to be more involved in the passing game. And if Denver is indeed trailing, he could see some snaps here at 3,700.
That's what I'd wait on seeing.
Yeah, so you do have interest in him, huh?
No. I said that's one I'd wait on seeing.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to wait and see. Take the wait and see approach. I'm not going to play him, but I just want to, point these guys out because it is worth noting some of these changes that we're seeing here on offenses.
Devontae Booker is not worth noting.
Touche, my friend. Touche.
That's why you're on top of that stuff. I'm gonna take a stand and say it's not important.
There we go. So there we go, guys. Not important. This game is not all that interesting, honestly. There's a couple secondary plays, no core plays for me. I think Sutton is fine. I think he's going to be popular, but that's okay. Any final thoughts? I think Houston Texans defense is pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah, Texans. I like the Texans D a little. I can get down with that.
So I think there's
Keenum's gonna have to grow.
Huh?
No. I was saying Keenum, but
no.
I liked him last week.
Oh no.
You didn't like Keenum last week.
No, I never liked Keenum.
Why? He threw the ball like a billion times at Houston. Was he at Houston? Where was he? I don't know where he went to college. He played good last year for the Vikings.
Yeah, but that's because he had Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs and Kyle Rudolph, and it's when you have those kind of weapons. I mean, look Kirk Cousins how well he's playing this year, and
he's torching.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you got pass catchers like that, it's a totally different thing. Case Keenum is just he's no go for me. When you look at his success this year, it's come against pretty subpar defenses. He does have several games below 10 fantasy points, so I'm skipping there, man. On to this next game here. Los Angeles Chargers going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. This is a game I don't have much interest in, but it is worth talking about here. 48 over under, 24.5 implied team total for the Seahawks, 23.5 implied team total for the Chargers. Give me your thoughts on this one, Bobby.
I like Chris Carson. I think that you can kind of go there. I like Will Russell. He's kind of torched everyone. I liked him last week. Russell and David Moore was like a good call for me last week in tournaments.
It was a great call. Great call.
Yeah.
You did
I also had Stafford and Kenny Golladay, though, so I really can't say that it was fantastic. You know what I mean? I definitely should have used more Russell and David Moore. Yeah, I like David Moore at 3,800, right below Courtland Sutton on DraftKings at 3,900. I don't think he'd be the guy I'd punt with, but I like him. I think Carson's at 4,700. I think that's a really good price for Carson. He's seen the 25 carries last week. Carson's a really good running back. He's not going to be a $4,700 running back for a long time. He just is because Mike Davis is getting some of his snaps, and on a week-to-week basis, it's kind of tough to figure out who's going to get there in terms of the snap percentage. But Carson's obviously setting himself apart, so I wouldn't be opposed to taking the risk.
I think that's a good call. When you look at his touches over the last 4 weeks, over 20 touches in three, or at least 20 touches in 3 of the last 4 games, over 100 rushing yards in 3 of those games as well. 2 touchdowns during that span. So definitely very efficient as of late. I do think this is a good game environment for him. So I do think he's underpriced as well. I agree with you entirely with that call. I actually think Carson's a very, very good point per dollar play. Actually, one of the best if you look at it. And I think Russ Wilson, the only thing that concerns me about him is he's been so efficient lately, but he hasn't attempted more than 23 passes in any of the last 3 games. So that does concern me because when there's not a ton of volume, you're really relying heavily on those, touchdowns. At least the first couple of weeks, we saw 33, 36, 26. But the last 3 weeks, man, 21, 23, and 17 pass attempts. Very difficult for him to throw 3 touchdowns consistently with just attempting those passes, and that does concern me a little bit. However, there is certainly a ceiling here. I do think he's underpriced considering what he's capable of doing. So I agree with you. He is firmly in play here. Anyone on the Chargers side, and if you're pairing up anyone with Wilson, who would it be here? Would it be Lockett, Baldwin? In what direction would you be heading? I know Baldwin is, or even more. I know Baldwin is dealing with a knee injury. But would you be considering any of these guys pairing them up, or would you just be playing a naked Wilson here?
I don't mind pairing them up. I think Lockett's been on fire. I think I'd rather Lockett and David Moore ahead of Baldwin. I think I said it the other way around last week, and Baldwin kind of hit. I mean, Lockett obviously went off. So I don't know. I'd go. I don't really mind any of the 3, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
In tournament.
And any Chargers this week that you're interested in? I know Mike Williams, and they've been up and down, and we see Tyrell Williams now in his last 2 games, over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns, but only eight targets. So it's kind of obviously inconsistent. We saw Mike Williams get in the end zone last week, only on 3 targets. Kind of tough to predict a floor for any of these guys. We know what kind of ceiling they have, but really not a situation that's easy to predict here, which is why I am asking you if you have any interest in any of these dudes.
Not really. I get why people would like them, though. So I'm not, opposed to playing Rivers off the bye or Mike Williams, Kelvin in tournaments.
Yeah. Melvin Gordon's still dealing with the hamstring injury. He's been limited in practice. I believe he did not play in week 7, which we thought, maybe after the bye week he'd be good, but apparently he's still dealing with this hamstring injury. If he doesn't go, would you be looking at someone like Austin Eckler, who I think has a pretty nice floor and should be very efficient if he's on the field at 4,300?
Wait, Melvin Gordon's out?
He's not out, but he's dealing with them, with the hamstring injury. Excuse me, with the hamstring injury, and he's limited in practice. So I don't know if he's going to play or not. There hasn't been any news as to he might miss or nothing. At this point, he's considered questionable. He did miss prior to going on bye against in that game in London. I think it was against the Titans. He did not play in that game. Eckler got the start. So to me, it's something worth monitoring because you got Eckler at 4,300 who can become one of the top value plays on the slate, in my opinion, if Melvin Gordon is out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Eckler automatically is in play if Melvin Gordon sits. So, yeah, I don't hate Eckler at all.
Yeah,
I'm sorry I didn't bring contests before this.
No, absolutely not, man. It's a lot of news this week, man. So I could totally see why that one kind of went overlooked there. But yeah, dude. Honestly, I think from the Charger side, there's really not much except Eckler. I'm keeping an eye on that news for Melvin Gordon. I think I'm going to like Eckler regardless whether Melvin Gordon plays or not because he's dealing with a hamstring injury. So I don't know how limited he'll be throughout the game. And I'm with you. I think Wilson and Carson are good plays here for Seattle. Now, the moment you've been waiting for the entire night, Bobby. I'm just going to listen. I'm going to read out the Vegas stats, and I'm going to stay quiet and just let you go here because I know you've been waiting for this game the entire night. I know this is going to be your game stacks this weekend, and that is the Rams at New Orleans taking on the Saints. This game has a 60-point over-under. 57% of the bets are on the over. The Rams have a 30.5 implied team total, 1-point favorites on the road against the Saints, who have a 29.5 implied team total. It is worth noting that this line has shifted 1.5 in the Rams' favor. All right, guys, it is worth noting. One more thing. Alvin Kamara missed today's practice, if I'm not mistaken here, with an illness. I highly doubt that an illness will keep him off the field this weekend. If that is the case, give me your thoughts here, man. I'm going to give you the floor.
Wait a minute. Don't give me the floor. I gotta swap something out. Shoot.
Last minute stuff. All right. So this is a game where Cooper Kupp is also expected to return here. If he does play, assuming there's no limitations here, for me, I think Cooper Kupp is one of the best plays on the entire slate. I just love this matchup for him against, I believe it's going to be, PJ Williams here. All right, PJ Williams, a 42% advantage rating. PJ Williams grades out as one of the worst corners on the slate. Kupp was so efficient before getting injured. He's dealing with that MCL sprain. Definitely keep an eye on his status. Because when he was playing, the games before he got injured, he had scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games, top 20 fantasy points in 2 of those 3 games, and never scored fewer than 16.8 fantasy points. 6K, I think, is very, very reasonable considering what kind of production he can, provide those who roster him. Give me your thoughts here on this game, Bobby.
Yeah, so basically, I love Kamara, I love Gurley. The total 60. Gurley's is the highest usage running back in the league. I think you really have to like him. His prices came down. Kamara is firmly in play in everything. Robert Woods is someone in terms of game theory. The last 2 weeks he's been pretty chalky. So you can definitely go there. I love Cooper Kupp. I'll be using him quite a bit. The decision with Breeze is interesting. I have Breeze as the best quarterback option on the slate, but he hasn't thrown the ball as much in terms of the last couple of weeks with Ingram returning, but they're pretty good versus the run. So you got to figure Breeze is going to be more involved. This is the Coors Field of the NFL, so you really have to love this game. I love Kupp, love Robert Woods, love game stacking this game. I pretty much the only one that I'm kind of I have Goff. I have Breeze, Goff, and then Fitzpatrick is my quarterbacks ranked, but I'm probably not going to use Goff due to his home road splits. If you look at those, I think he's averaging 30 fantasy points at home and then something around 15 on the road. Obviously that's going to come up this week. It's just a matter of how much it's going to come up. So I'd probably bump Fitzpatrick ahead of Goff. But then it kind of goes against I like Woods and Kupp a little more than I like Gurley in tournaments. I know I said I'll have a ton of Gurley in cash probably, but in tournament, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out this whole situation with Gurley because his prices came down. I'll probably be with the field with him in tournaments. I don't know. What's your call?
Well, Goff is my number 2 quarterback behind Cam Newton on the week here. I know his home road splits are pretty, eye-popping. I actually caught that last week when I was writing him up. And this is just, to me, a very good game environment for him. I think Gurley is obviously going to be able to run wild against the Saints, but I do think that the Saints are going to be able to put points up here. So Goff is going to have to throw a little bit more than he's typically throwing. He threw the ball 35 times last week. He's thrown the ball over 30 times in all but 2 games. No fewer than 28 times just once all season. Very efficient. He's more than likely going to get Kupp back this week, which is a very good security blanket for him. We saw him kind of drop off a little bit with Kupp off the field. So I do think this is a good thing for him if Kupp returns. I'm with you. I think Robert Woods has been, kind of underwhelming in the last 2 weeks. We've had big expectations for him, and maybe that's why he's underwhelmed. But once again, another good spot here for him. He's supposed to see Eli Apple, and he has a 36% advantage rating in that matchup here. So I like him a ton. And I already mentioned Cooper Kupp having P.J. Williams, which is even better matchup for him. So I like this entire Rams offense. The one I'm typically, when we're talking about narratives, the one I'm typically a little bit underweight on, or kind of under as far as expectations is concerned, is Brandon Cooks. Again, I'll be there this week. I do think he might be the smartest play because at 6,700, he might go overlooked here in a potential smash spot because he does have that big play ability. However, not someone I'm going to be heavily, or at least I'm not planning on having heavy exposure to this week at all for him. So I do think for me, it's Goff, Gurley, Kupp, and Woods are the guys I'm going to be targeting. Maybe core plays, if I run multiple lineups this weekend. On the other side, what do you think about, Michael Thomas? He's dealing with a shoulder injury, but he was able to practice today, so it doesn't look like it's going to keep him off the field. He's expected to see Marcus Peters. Thomas has a 35% advantage rating here. Any thoughts on him? His production has kind of dipped a bit as far as at least from what we saw at the beginning of the year, where he was just being peppered with targets. Fewer than 10 targets in each of the last 4 games. Fewer than 9 in 3 of those games. So pretty concerning to me from a volume standpoint, but still think that this is a good game environment and a good get-right spot for him. He has had some tough matchups against Minnesota, against Baltimore. Talked about Washington being a respectable defense. The only one that really doesn't make sense there is the Giants, but just don't think it was a good game environment for him in that contest. So I don't know. They're at home. He obviously plays better at home because Brees plays better at home. So I do think this is a pretty good spot, and I don't know how popular he's going to be this weekend. Are you expecting high ownership on Michael Thomas?
I haven't really checked it, but I like Breeze, so I would correlate him with Thomas. I also like Traquan Smith. And I like Kamara. I like the Saints passing game. So I can look. I'll check the ownership now.
And then as far as the running back, who you talked about Kamara a bit, so I assume you're a little bit more inclined to use Kamara over someone like a Mark Ingram.
Yeah, definitely more inclined to use Kamara. I think it's very interesting at running back this week. It's just a matter of you have Kamara, you have McCaffrey, and you have Gurley, and you're basically making a decision in cash games whether you're going to use Gurley, and then in tournaments who you're going to fade, because I feel like you have to fade one of them. And Gurley's price has gone down, but he's still 9,500, and you have so many running backs. And you don't necessarily have to fade one of them, but be with the field or underweight if you're using – should explain that better if you're multi-entering. So Gurley would be – Gurley is someone I'm definitely going to use in cash, but in tournaments I'm trying to figure if I should be overweight on him or overweight on McCaffrey. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to be running Cam and Goff lineups.
What'd you say? I'm definitely going to be overweight on Kamara.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that would be pretty wise, especially if you're on Breeze. I'm gonna have Cam and Goff stacks this weekend.
So
it's just a matter of
You would probably go the other way.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how I'm going to stack them up and then who I'm going to plug in with a stack here. Because I might just run a 3-man Ram stack and then I might run a 3-man Panther stack. Or I might run 2-man and then Gurley with Panthers and then a 2-man Rams with, McCaffrey instead of Gurley in the lineup. So I still haven't constructed my lineups yet, but I think they're all really strong plays. I really do. I think this is a stackable game. Just like the Carolina Tampa Bay one, I think those are the ones that really stand out for me this week. Quite a bit. As far as ownership for Michael Thomas, I'm trying to get that information here now. It looks like he's projected to be 17 to 20% owned, so pretty popular this week. What do you feel about that? Like, I'm okay with that kind of ownership for Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too. Just because he's going to be involved in the highest total game on the slate, and it's going to be the perimeter guys. It's not going to be Ingram. I wouldn't run Ingram and Aaron Donald and Dominican Sue. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So they just added Dante Fowler as well, which is actually kind of crazy if he hits his upside and that. Being next to Dominican Sue and Aaron Donald, I could get 10 sacks. I feel like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe that's a stretch, but it's going to do wonders for him. I feel like, I like the guys on the perimeter for the Saints. So yeah, I don't mind that ownership. 17 to 20% is fine. I'd probably be overweight on Thomas.
Yeah, I think I might be taking that same approach this week. It's it's kind of an ugly slate when you look at it. There's really maybe 2-3 games are very strong. The rest are very unappealing. At least for me, I think you kind of feel the same way based on how you broke down some of these games this weekend. Hopefully, we see some line movements to kind of change that because it'd be much more interesting to have more options. Slates like this where a lot of the owners filtered into one direction kind of makes it fun for tournaments, but for cash games it's kind of a bit challenging, I guess, because you're gonna have a lot of 1 versus 1s in my opinion this week with games when a slate is like that. You play much more cash games than I do. Do you change your approach in cash games, or do you just kind of take the slate for what it's worth and just, play the guys and forget about, trying to pivot?
I feel like you just have to trust you're going to make the better decision. Everyone's going to get to that certain point within the build, and then you're going to be forced to make a decision. And I just kind of trust my process, in cash. I think honestly, to make this more profitable, I feel like one of the things would be to play the Sunday Monday or the Thursday Monday for cash games. So then you add on the New England Green Bay game and also the Monday game, so it opens things up a little, and you can differentiate. And you make other people have to make choices. I know I do well with the Pats, so if they're on the slate, I know I can. I have an advantage. I try to put myself in advantageous situations. So. Not that I just play New England players all the time, but I don't know. It's just you want to play to your strengths, right? I feel like. Yeah.
And after all, wasn't it a New England Patriot player that got you the big payday?
Yeah, nice. Jonas Gray.
Jonas Gray, right? I remember that. Listen, you gotta stick to what works, man, and that works for you. So, any final thoughts on this slate before we get going this evening?
No, thanks for hopping on.
Oh, man, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks. Appreciate the time. I like talking I like breaking this down. Gets me ready for Sunday because it gets me in the right frame.
Yeah, man, it's always good talking football with you, man. And, you definitely bring up some good points sometimes. And that's the best part of doing podcasts is, man, is just, you get to pick someone else's brain. You put your research and then someone else's research, and you kind of sometimes you miss a spot, sometimes you miss a player, and you overlook something, and which is always good. And it's also great to do the Sunday morning show for that reason, because once we get off here, I'm going to be writing some articles. I'm going to be doing more research. I'm going to be digging in deeper to some of the other games, and things might pop out at me that haven't popped out at me yet. And come Sunday, I mean, we're 1,000% prepared. I mean, tonight we're fully prepared. Sunday we're 1,000% prepared. There we have our.
It's line. So much easier to make on Sunday because you know that we're getting that news.
Exactly. There's so much more news out. So always a blast, bro. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, Bobby Gums DFS on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep. And I am at Armando_Marsal on Twitter and Instagram as well. Guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you check out Football Diehards. They're giving out a 2-week free subscription. You'll be able to get DFS content, season-long content, videos, pretty much anything you could think of, rankings. They have snap percentages, red zone, numbers. There's just so much content, so much information there. It's definitely worth it if you're not already tuning in and listening. Make sure you check that out. Also, if a Sunday morning, if you want to kick it with Bobby and I, 11 a.m. we'll be going live. You can find the link on the site, footballdiehards.com again. We'll be pretty much talking the entire slate once again, but this time with all the updates as far as news is concerned. And we'll be also providing live updates as we hear them. So make sure you guys check us out. Again, thank you for tuning in. I am Armando. With me, as always, today was Bobby. Everyone, good luck this weekend, and we will see you next week.